infectious disease and immunology specialist. Dr. Purvi Parikh joins us now. Doctor, good morning.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
I am doing well, thank you. Hope you are too. So we've been talking a lot about the challenges and problems with testing. Please tell us that the vaccine development process is going much better.
This is an unprecedented time, as everyone always says, because we're developing a vaccine at a much faster speed than ever before. So we're trying to develop something in months, which normally takes years. That being said, however, we are still following all of the phases, all of the appropriate safety checks. So far, phase 1 and 2 have shown very promising data from multiple companies. And now multiple companies in the U.S. are moving to phase 3, which is kind of that last step before they can apply for FDA approval.
Yeah, Vladimir Putin and Russia seem to think that phase 3, maybe not so important. Explain, if you will, why phase 3 is important and how important is it in a time like this to share the data from these trials to increase the likelihood that people actually take the vaccine?
Right. Phase 3 is extremely important because this is the step where we test it very widely. 30,000 people are tested. All the high-risk groups are tested, elderly, healthcare workers, those with health disparities. Those are the populations we want to make sure that it definitely works in. And then sharing data, of course, is paramount, right? Because we want to know that it works. We want to know it's effective. We want to know that it's safe, which is key. So this is actually the most important phase because when you have large-scale testing, usually phase 1 and 2 is usually less than 100 people, if that. With 30,000 people, we can get real strong data of how safe this is, how effective this is. And if there's any hiccups, it's going to cause a lot of vaccine suspicion, which we don't need, because that will be another roadblock in us achieving herd immunity if people are reluctant to take the vaccine.
Yeah, speaking of that, Dr. Parikh, I mean, so often we hear the phrase during the course of your talking to your friends or relatives or anybody else, when there's a vaccine. I'll go back to the office. Right. When there's a vaccine, I'll send my kids back to school. When there's a vaccine, I'll start going out again to restaurants and bars inside. But when there's a vaccine and when it's available to me and when it's available to a lot of people and when we get to what you were just talking about in terms of herd immunity are two different things, aren't they? So what's the actual expectation for when it's available and people can take it and we can really get back to normal?
Right. So, with the most optimistic thinking, we're hoping vaccines are approved by the end of the year. Now, that being said, it might not be available for people to readily get like the flu shot until even summer or spring of 2021 or even later. This is the first time probably in a long time where the entire world is clamoring for the same supply of a vaccine. And that being said, I don't know if people understand vaccine immunology, but if I get a shot today, it's not going to be protective tomorrow. It takes a couple weeks at least for your own immune system to react to it and build those antibodies, build those T-cell responses. So people still, I think, will have to be realistic about their expectations.
Dr. Parikh, a couple of questions here. One is, you mentioned that it's going to take a couple of weeks before the vaccine is actually working in people's bodies. But also, do you have a sense of how frequently people are going to need to get vaccines for that to remain effective? Is this going to be a one time a year thing similar to the flu shot? And also, I know you're testing different types of vaccines. Is each vaccine going to have a very different protocol, or do you think there'll be a similarity which will make it easier for consumers to understand?
Right. I mean, those are all excellent questions. And the length of vaccine immunity is actually the million-dollar question, if you will, because we have great data from Moderna, Pfizer, as well as Oxford, AstraZeneca, that the vaccines are working. There's good antibody responses. Oxford's vaccine is even showing good antibody and T-cell responses. But the question is, how long will this last? And the short answer is we don't know. We're in the process of learning about it just as the rest of the world is. So that will be very interesting to know how frequently the vaccine is needed, because that will affect the supply around the world, right? A vaccine needed once a year versus every 5 years is very, very different. The other thing people don't realize that a lot of these vaccines are multiple doses. So most of the ones that are currently being tested, Moderna, Pfizer, they're 2 doses. AstraZeneca, Oxford, the protocol is still being worked out, but likely that one will also be 2 doses. So again, it's not like a one shot and done deal, so even just for the initial immunity, most of these vaccines, you need at least 2 doses.